Hello, friends. How are you today? I am here to read from chapters 31 through 33 of Dark World, Light Work. Those chapters are called End Times, Have Not, and The Dark Night. So let's get right to it. For the next 8 months, both Rat and the Deep State continued their relentless attacks. Shortly before I was abducted by the LVMPD, I noticed that all my grandmother's savings had been drained. When I called to inquire about the funds, R took issue with the audit. She wouldn't even let me speak to my grandmother. She told me that she would be handling the finances from then on, and she hung up. The next day, the entire account was closed. Next, she targeted utilities. She cut off the cable and internet, which I found to be peculiar since the services were in my name. I reinstated the cable and she proceeded to cancel it once again. The second time, she somehow blocked me from getting service at my own address. A week or so later, a letter arrived. It was a copy. It was also in Rat's handwriting. However, it was signed with my grandmother's name. The letter discussed my inability to stand up as a caregiver and detailed my grandmother's wishes to have me removed from the home and never to see me again. The entire rambling was complete rubbish. Much like the government, Rat made sure to include certain keywords and phrases that would resonate in an official proceeding. She was obviously trying to set a precedent regarding not only my grandmother's incompetence, but mine as well. My grandmother had beautiful handwriting. She prided herself on it. It was very unique due to her dominant hand being switched in Catholic school. I certainly knew the difference between her elegant calligraphy and R's maniacal chicken scratches. Rat is as bumbling an idiot as the fools in the Clark County militia and the Deep State. All of them had taken to forging documents to get their way. All right, the next chapter is Have Not. Okay. In the last days, I did have a premonition that car dwelling would be part of my journey. A few months prior, and once again, seemingly out of nowhere, I became addicted to watching van life videos on YouTube. One night, I clicked on a video of a woman living in a minivan. The concept of traveling in a van looked like it would be okay, but the rigs I were looking at were of the Mercedes Sprinter variety. The idea of living in something as small as a minivan made me sick to my stomach. All of the woman's belongings were stuffed into the back area. It looked overwhelmingly claustrophobic. Anything but that. I don't think I could live like that. I had this thought as quickly as I clicked off the video. I just as quickly tried to put the idea out of my mind. I would accept my fate the first night as Clem and I slept next door to my locked house. I had a choice, fight or flight. My grandmother gave me roots and wings. I chose to fly. As the sun dipped under the horizon, I began to panic. I was prepared to fly, but I had nowhere to land. I really needed more time to plan. I'd been blindsided. My life as I knew it was over, and things would never be the same. Not surprisingly, during this time, I found more support and unconditional love from acquaintances and friends than from family. My mind was racing. I was trying to figure out my next move when I heard my phone ring. I felt a huge sense of relief. At the very least, someone was thinking about me. For that, I was grateful. It was my old friend G. We'd known each other for almost 20 years. We met while he and my cousin were roommates in the early 2000s. He recently left Las Vegas for Northern California. We hadn't spoken in a while, so this call came right on time. We exchanged hellos and I briefly explained my situation. Our relationship had always been close. We discussed anything and everything quite openly. He put me on hold for a minute while he called his sister, Lisa. She lived in town. G told me that he would ask her if I could stay at her house. He assured me that I would not have to sleep on the street. Once again, I believed him because I desperately needed it to be true. Within minutes, he called me back to let me know that Lisa agreed to let me stay in a spare room. No questions asked. I was beyond grateful and relieved for Clem and me to have shelter for another night. However, I knew that was only temporary. The last thing I wanted to do was wear out my welcome. I drove to Lisa's house with the intention of staying one night. I planned to buy some camping gear the next morning. Then I planned to try to drive up to a campground at Mount Charleston just outside of Las Vegas. All right, and then the last chapter is The Dark Night. In 2009, I purchased a 2006 dark blue, almost black Mercedes-Benz C230. I lovingly referred to this car as the Dark Knight. By the time I was locked out of my home, it was the only possession that I could legally call my own. It was in my name and paid off. That was the light side. It was currently unregistered and linked to someone with an active bench warrant in the system, the dark side. I found the car online. It was part of a fleet and for the previous 3 years had only been used to transport golfers from the clubhouse to the first hole. At first, I had my eye on a brand new Saturn Vue. Once I found the Mercedes, my dad insisted I get it. He assured me that a luxury vehicle from the Mercedes Corporation would age better than a mid-range SUV from a dying brand. Even a broken clock is right twice a day. It did not take much convincing. I'd either been driven in or driven a Mercedes for most of my life. What the man was saying made sense, and he rarely resonated with me. I took it as a sign, and I'm so unbelievably grateful that I made that decision. I'm sorry, the camera cut off again, but that was the chapters 31 through 33, and next time we are going to be reading 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, and 36, and those are called Clementine, Exodus, and LBC. See you next time.